Good morning. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. You are on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm, and it's brought to you by the Metadime Digital Network. Listen, I've been thinking a lot about how much stress the world is in right now. And we have, a really huge crisis after another crisis with a crisis on top of the crisis. And I thought to myself today, this just isn't a healthy state of mind. And so today on the Coffee Break Show, we're going to be discussing how we can release stress, how we can use some stress reset processes. And at 11:30 today, I'm going to be joined by Isabelle Tierney, who's been on here before. She's kind of our stress reset expert, and we are going to be doing some work today on this show. So if you are listening on one of our channels, if it's iHeartRadio or iTunes or Pandora, where you are listening to the show, I just want to welcome you here. And, if you are here with us every day on one of our channels, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. But I want to talk a little bit about the stress we're feeling. Hey, Karen, nice to see you on today. Well, I want to talk about the stress we've been feeling, the stress that we have, the stress that we're under right now. One of the things, yes, I love Isabelle Tierney too. Stress reset. Isabelle Tierney did such a super job on her previous show. Do me a favor. Would you find that previous show, and could you guys put a link to that previous show in there? So if they want to see the whole reset show, they can. But today I was looking at the world and I was like, oh my gosh, we are under so much pressure right now. There are people who have more, they have financial pressures that they've never experienced before. The people that have, pressures about where they're going to live and what they're going to do based off of hurricanes and floods and fires and things like that are happening everywhere at a accelerated pace. The floods and fires and hurricanes this year were absolutely over the top. And some people have been displaced. They've been displaced without any help, without any backup. It's just, maybe they get some help from their family. Maybe they don't. We don't know. But we know that somehow in our future, we're going to be experiencing a little bit more of this as, the climate adjusts to however it's adjusting, whether it's hotter or cooler. I don't, I'm not a scientist, so I don't want to debate that. But what's going to happen is we also have holiday stress right now, but we have economic stress like we've never had before with really hardworking business owners, entrepreneurs everywhere losing their businesses. I'm going to try and move the shoulder a little bit today. It's better. Losing their businesses, losing some of the stuff they have, and they don't have a backup recourse. There's not much help out there. And of course, the pandemic crisis has, it's all over the world. Everybody knows that it's not just hurting entrepreneurs in this country. It's hurting entrepreneurship. It's hurting financial. It's hurting families. There's extreme grief, extreme loss, and it's not just from the pandemic. And if you're any kind of empath out there and you're listening and you're empathic, we went ahead, and I know that you're feeling all this in the air. It's just overwhelming sometimes, these feelings that people can have about what they're going through in this moment. And that can be really, really rough. So when you get to the point where you have all of this going on, I went out, we put a poll out, and we asked what was the number one thing. And we read some other polls from I want to say it was Bloomberg or a couple of other places. And what they were discussing was what is the overall fear or anger? What was the dominant emotion people were feeling? And it was fear, anger, and grief. Grief is very interesting because there's 4 stages to grief, right? And I'm not going to get them right, but I think there's disbelief, then anger, then depression, then acceptance, or something like that. There's the 4 stages of grief that go through there. And a lot of people are feeling grief at everything that's happening. And grief doesn't have to be just because of death. Grief right now can be the ending of your business. Grief right now could be the high divorce rate because the pandemic is keeping families jumped up. Grief in our kids and stress in our kids because their routines are, go to school, no, come back from school, no, go to school, no, come back from school. There's so much uncertainty in the air around the world that we are in a zone of stress that I don't think the world has been in since, I'm going to guess, 1918. Now, somebody put up some statistics for me last show, and I think it was Susie Nelson, not sure. But they said 1918, 50 million people died from the Spanish flu around the world. And the population was much smaller then than it is now. So, and there wasn't all the internet that we have right now. And I know that we have vaccines coming and our doctors are in there and they're working as hard as they can. But in this moment, even though a vaccine is in some places, we don't know yet. We're running probably one of the grandest experiments there ever was on Earth right now. And what happens is, whether you're an empath and you right away feel the stress of that, if you're an empath, you feel the pain in the world, or you can see it or observe it. But those people who aren't empathic, and I would consider myself open, but I don't feel other people's feelings. I only feel my feelings. And when you get to the point, happy Wednesday. Nice to see you on, MJ. My shoulder's a little bit better, but I'm going to slow down and use my left hand and just say hello. Nice to see you on. Oh, thank you. The 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, I want to say that I think our whole world is in this stages of grief. Some people are still in denial. They don't even think the pandemic is real. They think it's a plandemic, etc. Either way, this virus is here. Whether it's from China, whether it was made in a lab, whether it came from a bat, it's still here. Our hospital workers are overwhelmed. We're getting makeshift hospitals built. People have lost their houses. They've lost their jobs, their businesses, or everything. We're moving from denial. There's some people still in denial, and they're moving to anger. They're angry about what's happened. They have so much anger. They're like, you're taking away our freedoms. They think that this is a plan to create a one world order where it's controlled by one person. We're not sure who that person is, but it's that in that anger. And now we're going to be bargaining, and we might get to depressions and acceptance of, I'm not sure what. I know there's a lot of stories out there too. I want to add confusion to this list right now, because we do have a lot of confusion. We have political confusion right now versus the side that says the election was corrupt and the side that says there was no corruption, and the suits that are going back and forth between them. There's a lot of political unrest right now. And these things have been so huge on the world that there is a basis for kind of a continuous confusion, a continuous denial, a continuous anger, a continuous separation between us and whatever side you think you're on. There, that separation is there. We have a lot of lack of kindness in the world. And people, it got so bad they wanted to bring Christmas on early. So, right after October, we started seeing Christmas stuff happen and a little bit of Christmas music. And you can see in all the families, everybody's trying to bring a little good cheer into the household and have something that's familiar. So we're going to put the Christmas trees up early and we're going to sing Christmas songs early. And this may relieve stress a little bit, but the world is still in grief. And when we look at Christmas this year, you can look at it from one standpoint where we are stimulating the online economy, because the online online stores it's been so big shopping on the online that it's set records already. And we're not even close to Christmas. That last week before Christmas, when everybody kind of used to shop like crazy, we have right now those people that are absolutely just running. And we haven't seen that yet. We're already setting financial records for that. So what happens is I think, part of me that's saying, what is real? What's real? And our routines don't make anything real. They make them familiar. Like, oh, Thanksgiving comes this time of year. It's a routine. We do this routine. It's familiar, but it doesn't make it real. The action you take to engage in the holiday, that makes it real for you, doesn't necessarily make it real for anyone else. So I want to get down here and speak like I'm your friend, or I'm your grandma, or someone who's talking about what's real. Whatever you create for you is what's real. What's happening with you right now is what's real. So even if it's the story, even if it's just a story, it's real to you. So in that stress reset thing, when we take a look at your reality, the number one thing is, what story are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself that things are falling apart, or that we are headed towards a calamity of some sort, or that you lost somebody you really loved and you are in the stages of grief? Wherever you're at, that's reality. And no matter what holiday comes along, doesn't matter what holiday, that thing is only a medication about what's real for you. If it's real that your house completely burnt down in California, your entire community burnt down in California, and you've lost everything, and you don't necessarily have a new home to live in, or a job to find, or a community that you're there, that's living a type of reality. If you have everything and your family is fine and things are looking up and you have joyful stuff in your life, then that's your reality right there. And it doesn't matter what holiday comes around. That's just a thing you get to experience. The thing I like about the holidays is it makes people kinder, nicer, gentler. They're more sharing and more giving. And that can help everyone relax. But after the holiday, we still have a president and a president-elect. We don't actually have a leader, particularly in the United States yet, that is, moving in. We still have tons of people whose entire economy for them, which is unemployment, is going to be running out at the end of this month. We have people who are going to be served with eviction notices with no place to go. We still have a lot of damage to assess from this pandemic for all those entrepreneurs that had their business that was up and running, and they've had it 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, could be generational. And they're fighting to keep their business open, or they're being grief-stricken because they've lost it all and they're not quite sure what their next move is going to be. So with all of these things in face, and the news that happens. So one of the things that I think is stressful for me is how many of our politicians have gotten COVID. There was COVID that just went rampant through the White House. And so that is a little alarming as far as our leaders go. And the lack of transparency from this virus. In other words, there's not one narrative. There's like 1,000 narratives about the virus. Some are that the PCR tests are just useless. And, Elon Musk, he tested 4 times in a day, and he got 2 that said he was, virus full, and 2 that said he was virus empty. He had 2 that were positive and 2 that were negative in the same day out of 4 tests. Could you imagine that, all those false positives? Is there really corruption behind this thing that says, and you might be saying to yourself, yes, there is corruption, but we don't actually have perfect fact with that. We have narratives that tell us stuff, but not perfect facts. I really like Chris Martenson. He has got a YouTube channel. He's a doctor, and he's a pathology doctor, if I'm correct, if I'm saying it right, Robin. Pathologist, is that correct? But he studies diseases, and he is being censored. He's being censored. So I know there's, I know for me, I have questions about censorship and what's the truth and what's not the truth, and why there has been such incredible censorship lately. Or maybe not corruption, but maybe rushing the, hang on, I got to get my arm up here. Let's see. Or maybe not corruption, maybe rushing the things forward way too fast to be effective. Maybe that's there. We don't know yet, but could you feel yourself right now just sitting here, just for a moment? Let's just take a moment and actually notice that you're living in this. You're watching your friends go through this, family members go through this. You're watching people that you love from near or far go through this. They're sharing their stories from around the world going through this. In the United States, we have the largest case history of this coronavirus narrative going on, which to me is shocking. How can you be the greatest country in the world and not be able to have protocols that would have deadened this? And how is it that our systems are being so stressed, and we have all of the healthcare workers telling us that this is real, and then we have people telling us that it's not real, or that there are better treatments than this shot we're getting, which right now I believe is free for us. I'm not sure. But Chris, thank you. Chris Martenson is a pathologist. I like to watch this guy. I think he has been absolutely following the trend and giving really excellent information, probably the best information out there. And if you could put his YouTube channel in there, that I'd really appreciate that. This is him right there. Chris Martenson hosts the Peak Prosperity YouTube channel and podcast, and he's worth listening to every single day. But getting straight information, we're living in this chaos. I think this is warlike violence. It's a different kind of violence. It's not guns and bombs and bullets, but it's gaslighting, misinformation, and fear tactics, which is equally as harmful to your state of being. We keep looking out there for answers because that's what we're taught. We go to a book, we go to the internet, we go everywhere except our own selves inside. And a lot of us know something ain't right, something's not right. And I think that's fueling the search, because there's part of us that is saying, something's not right here. I need more information. Something's not right here. I don't know what's going on, but this is what I think. So then we take to the internet and we're trying to find that answer that feels like matches our knowingness inside. And when we find it, like, oh, this makes sense to me, this is the narrative I'm going to follow, you're not finding the truth. You're choosing to follow a narrative, and that's vastly different. It's vastly different than actually accepting or getting the truth. So what happens is, as we look and we're looking for the truth, if we don't get the narrative we want, we continue searching or watching or looking or thinking or doing. And right now, we have never been put through this kind of whirling dervish that's going around. We have an infodemic. We have an info war. And we have this kind of information that is manipulative. It's some of it's truthful, some of it's right on, some of it, but which narrative is that? How do you find the truth out of there? A lot of people think the truth is in the citizen journalism. So they like a lot of citizen videos, because citizen videos show you what's happening. But now we have so many manipulators that are in there that are making manipulative videos, the untrue posts, the untrue everything. There's fake news, and both the citizens and the news media make fake news. that drive the agenda of the public. And so right now, when I see all of this and I sit in it and I feel all of the confusion or the aftermath of what is happening from that, one of the things that I get to think about or I get to do something about is stop looking out here and start looking in here. And what do I mean by start looking in here? I'm looking in here to notice that I am stressed out. Notice that I am being led. And I'm not thinking for myself. And one of the greatest things that I've gotten in my lifetime was, you guys know I spent a time as a police officer back in the day. And I got these really great trainings on collecting evidence and looking at crime scenes and going ahead and taking a look at where it is from where I am and working it back and collecting the evidence to see the crime scene, to see what unfolded when it was happening. So, you had to recreate, but looking for really evidence. There's a difference between evidence and speculation. And I remember understanding the difference between speculation and evidence. Our politics is a lot about speculation right now. It's not based on evidence. It's based on the possibility or the speculation of. And some people would like to, they like to go back and review everything to see if there is a type of corruption in a system, so to speak, which I think is fair. I think that's a fair thing to do, because if there's corruption in our political system, there's corruption everywhere. But I also think if there's already been evidence that it's not, what we hear on the news is our system is corrupt. There is no evidence of the system being corrupt. But we never get to see the evidence that it's corrupt, and we never get to see the evidence that it's not corrupt or how it's not corrupt. It's almost like a baseless claim, either side, whatever side you take. We don't get to see how the evidence is gathered, how the evidence was evaluated, and we don't get to see it from either side, those that do or don't. And I have some sense of this feeling that some of this is being created on purpose. And, I don't know if I'm an independent because I think both parties are corrupt as all get out. But I think that some of this chaos is purposely being created. The chaos part of it, the fact that you don't feel your center anymore, the fact that you can't find who you are, or so you can feel so much stress that you're so much stress that you've lost everything or done everything, that you're absolutely brought to your knees so that you will follow the narrative, whatever narrative you choose to follow. And so this is really important. Evidence, the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or a proposition is true or valid. We don't get to see the evidence, either side. Those that say there is corruption, those that say there's not. You've not brought us any evidence that it isn't corrupt, and you haven't brought any evidence that it is corrupt. What we're not seeing is any evidence. So how then can you choose without having all the information what the facts are? You can't choose what the facts are. Do you get that? And I think maybe they don't want you to be able to have facts. They want you to follow their narrative. They don't want you to be intelligent or discerning or knowing or etc. It's completely different. Indicating whether a belief or a proposition is true or valid. Is this a valid thing that we need to look into? Speculation, the forming of a theory or conjecture without firm evidence. This is where we are right now. Both sides are being speculative. There's no evidence that there was ever any kind of, well, you've never shown us that there's any evidence, that there's no evidence of tampering with anything. You haven't shown us that. But again, you haven't shown us that there was something. And this is all the difference in speculation. And these things right now that are happening are causing more stress to humanity than humanity knows about. Now, I know some people in their gut are like, oh, I know that the election was stolen. It was stolen. Right now, there's no evidence that it was stolen. There's no evidence that it wasn't stolen. And when we take a moment to have discernment in the middle of something, we have to take a look at the evidence that's coming in, not the speculations that are coming in. So the way our system works is when you file suit and you have to show proof of evidence that you actually have part of a case that is worthy of being followed. And so right now we don't have that. And I'm not sure how that's going to affect January. Hang on, I need a sip here. So what happens when we have uncertainty? How does uncertainty feel in your body or in your mind? I don't know if you've ever had a thought with a family member or a child, and you know they're lying to you. And you get that feeling right there. You get a feeling of them lying to you. You have an idea that they're lying to you, but they will not tell you the truth. They're not going to they're not going to say, you're right, I was lying. Here's this. You know that something ain't right. You know in your gut, this child is not telling me, or this person isn't telling me the truth, whether they cheated or not, or whether they lied or not, or whether they stole or not. Whatever it is, that person isn't going to tell the truth. So you can spend forever trying to get this person to tell the truth. You can do that, or you can go ahead and find a different way to go ahead and have the truth be brought to you. But I think the better thing is to release yourself from stress. I'm going to bring Isabelle on right now. Here, let me get my headgear on, Isabelle, because I'm not there. I want to catch you up on the conversation. Thanks for joining us today. And I want to let everyone know, I did not even give Isabelle 24 hours. She rearranged her day to do her friend a favor and come on and talk about the amount of stress. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, my friend.
Of course, it's you. I would do anything for you.
Thank you. Listen, I want to tell you, we just did a very big poll, and the poll came out that I'm hearing an echo in the background. Do you have headsets at all, or? Because they're going to hear that echo.
Is it bad, the echo? You know what? Give me a minute. Keep talking.
Yes. Okay, great. Okay. So as long as you can hear me, I'm going to keep talking out loud. We did a survey, and we took a look at a couple of other polls that came through, and there was in the survey 3 responses that people were having right now. And it was anxious, fear, and anger. Anxious, fear, and anger. That was the dominant thing. And as these COVID numbers have been going up and up and up and up, and the conversation has been, is it real? Is it not real? Is it not real? Is it is real? We'll have that tech stuff done pretty easy, guys. Maybe I can just talk quieter and it won't echo so much.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get on. So give me keep going, and I'm just okay. I'm listening.
You're doing a great job, by the way, because you go from one show to the other, and boom, we got here. So I was talking about it last week on the Coffee Break Show to everybody on, iHeartRadio and everywhere else we're from, and we're going live from. And there was this sense of stress that was happening. And I was like, yes, you remember when Isabelle Tierney was on and she talked about her stress reset. It seems like the whole world is in the red zone right now. They're in the red zone with the fires that happened, the floods that happened, the Three Gorges Dam in China, the hurricanes that happened and the earthquakes that have happened, the pandemic, the financial loss, all the businesses in their neighborhoods are crumbling, etc. And it just felt like the whole world was in the red zone. And so I said to myself, Maybe I'll ask Isabelle if she'll come on this week, because we're headed towards the end of the season. Last week is my last week on until we start the new season in January. And I think I would love to have everybody have some ability to be able to manage their stress while they're gone. I want to pop over here because I think this is
also. Sorry, for some reason I can't get. Is it really bad, the echo?
No, it's not now. I'll just talk to we're just get it. If you got it that way, we'll just figure it out. Susie says for the first time, we have reason to be suspect. For me, my father would always say, when you are upset, your intelligence goes down. And I agree with that. I've chosen to have a strategy for myself. If my worst case scenario happens, and that would be death, right? And I will add my passport is valid, and I made sure it can be used. I want to let you know, Susie, so have I. And that's a conversation we'll have at the beginning of the year as a show, by the way. And thank you for being here. So the thing about the feeling of suspect, the feeling of stress that we are feeling right now in the world, and the world being really well in the red zone. The object I remember is, even if the world is in the red zone, how do I keep myself in the green zone? That's what I really want to work at today. And I'd love to have some techniques that we can leave people to help them manage their stress, to help them remain in their center. And also for those people who are feeling grief, I mean, just grief from loss of a loved one, loss of their family home, or just loss in general. There's so much loss going on right now. What can we do? Because we need our intelligence. We need our souls to help us rebuild or reimagine a different life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are two different pieces that come to me. Let me go for the first part first. So in the work that I do, right, that's the Feel Good Life, the stress reset, we talk about when we are in the red zone, in that stress response, our brain is wired to look for the negativity, right? To look for what's wrong. And it's called the negativity bias. We literally cannot see what's right. We can only see what's wrong, because when we were cave people, right, and we went walking down a path in which, we had already experienced danger, it was important to look for the signals if that danger was happening versus to see the beautiful prairie. Our limbic brain still works like that. So for me, this work first helps you identify, am I in the stress response? What are the signals? You were naming them all. Anger, anxiety, irritation, frustration. It can lead to long-term depression, numbing. When you are in that red zone, I teach 3 steps. And think of a traffic light. Really simple to remember. Step number 1, stop. Whatever you're thinking and believing in that red zone is going to have distortion to it. I get it. The world is more dangerous. I get there's some truth to it. But in this moment, are you in danger? In this moment, do you have to be reacting as though there was a bear in front of you? So stop. Don't believe anything you think, feel, or want to do. Step number 2, slow down and breathe. That is to get yourself to the yellow zone, which is between red and green. Breathing deep abdominal breath is the fastest way to tell our bodies that we are safe. Breathing is not a stupid thing. Like, it's like, oh, really? You're going to tell me to breathe? No. Breathe is actually the physiologically fastest way to telling our bodies that we're safe. Because when we're stressed out, our breathing is rapid and fast, right? To get all our energy to fight or flight. When we tell our bodies that we can slow down our breathing, it's like, oh, I'm safe. So that's number 2, yellow, to get yourself to yellow. And then to get yourself to green, go. Take a feel-good habit. Take a feel-good action. Again, really, you're telling me to do something as simple as that, like calling a friend, taking a bath. But actually what that does, especially if you stay 30 seconds really enjoying the thing you're doing, it rewires your brain to actually start looking for positivity and not negativity. So you're literally rewiring an outdated brain. So do not underestimate the power of that third step, because it has been scientifically proven to change our brain. So,
this is so important right now, because one of the things that people have done to reset, those habits have been taken away. That, hi, I go to the gym and I work out and the gyms are closed. Hi, I'm able to go out and I, go dancing at the club and everything else, and the club is closed. And those habits that you have of feel good habits, they just need to be readjusted to fit the place that you're in right now. And they're so, health is so simple, everyone. This is so simple. This is the one area I want to go tap at right here. Number one.
Yeah, let me just say one quick thing, right? Is
yes.
One of the things I teach is you make sure you have to have a wide variety of habits at your disposal. And I say one thing. One is long-term, and then one is short-term, right? So if you can go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, one day, maybe, hopefully, and that's a great green zone strategy.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's also important to make sure you have a song right at your disposal on your phone that makes you feel green zone, makes you feel good every time. So short-term, long-term. And then the other one is internal, external. Some external ones are like putting shoes on and going outside for a walk. Have your shoes ready, right? Like you don't have to look for now, because you're going to forget about it. Yeah. And then internal is, what are things you can tell yourself? Is it meditation? Is it journaling? Is it prayer? Is it I'm okay? Is it breathing? So you need to have a wide variety. It's like AA, right? That's why you have a list of people for addiction you can call, because if the first person you call doesn't answer, you're going to go, oh, God, I'm going to drink. Like I don't know if you're allowed to curse on your show, but
you're allowed to curse on your show.
You need to have, and so I love that a lot of people's usual habits have gone out the window. Yeah. And so we have to develop new ones that are appropriate to our day and age. That's a great point. So sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I love it. Susie says, since I've been certified in hypnosis, I've been helping people and myself to calm down. I love your 3 steps. Me too. Your steps are great. It reminds me of the stop, drop, and roll. If you are in a fire, and we are in a fire. This is so true. I want to let you know that, you know how Oprah has her people, she's got like her Dr. Oz and Rachel Ray and Dr. Phil. I want you to meet the Coffee Break Show, Dr. Phil, right here. And we're going to be having, Isabelle on more often as we go through these stress things right now. She's like, really?
That's so cool. I know this along with you.
Really, I am? Yes, because I think our Dr. Phil is Dr. Isabelle, and Isabelle Tierney is probably, to me, I've known her for so long. I've watched all of her developments. I mean, she's just so fantastic. And my relationship with her is as such as that when there is a emergency in the world, I have the bat phone that I can go, hey, I need you. And boom, she's here. And I'm like, thank you so much. This is the kind of thing that we have. We have that access to this, but it's like a stop, drop, and roll. And these things that they sound basic, but they're so powerful. And I want to go back to number 1.
Yeah.
Because for me, this is the hard part. There can be a kind of negative intimacy with your thoughts, thinking, and feeling that I can enjoy. I enjoy my righteousness, or I enjoy the thought that I think this is, I have a sense of belonging to a group of people who thinks in that way, or somehow that I'm hooked. And that stop whatever you're thinking or feeling, that can be hard to do if we are celebrating that negative intimacy that we are having with these thoughts. There's a power of a group of people who are, birds of a feather flock together, but they also smell of the same shit. So you can get over here and talk in that negative way. Yeah. And some people find that how they're connecting is to talk about their problems, to talk about how can we figure out, because when you get to the point where stop whatever you're thinking and feeling, you have skills to manage your ego, to say, stop, Vickie, now. That's not healthy for you.
Well, yeah, you have to understand, you have to feel the suffering. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm not talking to people, there's like the 5 stages of change that are so beautifully described. Like the first one is you don't even believe you have a problem. That is not who I'm talking to. I'm talking to those people who go, oh my God, again and again, when I get on Facebook and I read all those political things, I notice I go and binge on, I go yell at my husband, or I feel like crap, or whatever it is, so, or you've got to know that there's a cost. I call them false good habits.
False good habits. Love it.
Think about false gods, right?
Yeah.
They tell you, they bring you gifts, but underneath the gifts is suffering. So I love calling them false good. They feel good immediately, right? But in the long run, they hurt. That's what we're talking about. The people who come to work with me are people who understand that what they're doing is hurting them and want to find a different way. So then they get it. Like, oh shit, whenever I do that red zone habit, that false good habit, I end up hurting the next day, the next month, the next year. I want to do something different. That's when they're willing to learn the process.
So, and this is so important what she's saying, because there's a point where you have to be willing to call yourself out. And when you call yourself out, that is you taking control of you and saying, I'm tired of suffering. And my mother always used to say this. She would say, when you've suffered enough, you'll do something. And right now there's so much unnecessary suffering going on. And somehow, when you're able to stop what you're thinking, to me, you're taking your power back.
Yes.
And that taking your power back is essential to go to the next step. And that next step is just slow down. Just put your car in neutral for a second. You don't have to step on the gas pedal, and you don't have to hit the brake. Just be in neutral for a second.
And what I love what you're saying is, like, when with your metaphor, if you put your car in neutral and you're not barreling down the highway in the red zone, it's literally what happens to our neural pathways. They're barreling down. When you put it in neutral, when you give it a chance, you get the power of choice back. The second step is about reclaiming the power of choice, because in the first step, your neocortex, your rational thinking brain is gone. So by stopping, okay, going to stop, slow down and breathe, and suddenly the neocortex comes back online, and now you have choice. So now in that car of metaphor, now you can be like, I'm actually going to go left and do a feel-good habit, and I'm not going to do a false good habits, because I know what happens when I do that. So it's really about expanding that moment of choice that disappears when we're in the red zone, when we're in the stress response.
So when you go into neutral, the thing I want to say is, when you go into neutral, you actually can go into a choice point. That choice point is where you take your power back. That choice point is when you say, I'm going to stop doing this habit and I'm going to implement this habit. And over a period of time, so for me, what I do is one of my easiest feel goods, and I do it before the show. I do this whole system throughout my day, but I like to dance. So I put on that music that makes me shake my groove thing, and that brings me to center. There's also music that I can listen to, and even the first word, the first sentence of a song puts me right back to center, because I've gotten to the point where I've done it enough where I can make that habit. But in this feel-good system, when you decide to take your power back, that's when you can begin to create your reality again. You see, the issue is we can't create our reality out here. We have to create it first in here. It becomes, you imagine it first, then the action happens. Some people are in such grief right now. They've, especially the people I think that have lost their homes and their businesses and things like that. They may not know what to do. And that just for a moment, let yourself not know what to do. Put your car in neutral and just breathe for a second. What if there is something else in that breathing that is trying to help you uncover what you should be doing? So, when they say, for me right now, I feel like that there's that biblical, I'm not going to get it right, and I don't know if it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, whatever it is, but there's that Bible saying that, where he closes one door, another is opened. Right now, doors are being slammed, and nobody's looking for that other open door. They're just focused on that slammed door, the slamming door. And also, what if you have kind of a premonition? Because to me, when I look at your life right now, you are the most evident premonition I've ever seen. You follow your way, you follow your voice, you followed everything, and you were moved to safety, even though your mind was saying, I don't know what to do. Why did I do this? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to share that a little bit? It could be too personal if you
No,
don't.
well, what I want to say, one thing is, when you said we're looking for the doors that are closed, one of the mottos of the Feel Good Life methodology is that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. It is not our fault when we get ourselves into that red zone and that stress response. The brain is misinterpreting danger. And right now, there's so much actual danger that makes it really hard. So when you talk about we don't see the closed doors, that's that negativity bias. We can't see what's right. We're not wired to see what's right. So you literally have to retrain your brain to start having a positivity bias, to be like, oh, but this door opens. So, and that takes a rewiring, and it takes time and it takes practice. I wanted to make sure people know that it's not your fault if you're only seeing closed doors right now, but it is your responsibility, if you want a life that feels good, to actually do the 3 steps and then be like, oh, here's an open door. I don't know if I'm going to answer the question the way you asked it. So let me check it out. What I've decided recently, and this might be heretic in your group or maybe not, I've decided to make God my CEO. And by God, I don't mean the white man in the sky. I can call it the green zone. I can call it intuition. I can call it my soul, the universe, whatever it is that's bigger than my ego. And so what I'm doing, I have 3 steps. I listen, I take action on what I hear, and then I let go of the outcome. And every night, at the end of the day, I'm like, how was I as God's employee? Did I listen? Did I follow what I heard? And did I let go of the outcome? And the most extraordinary things have happened in the last few weeks since I've really committed to that. And so I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but that's the way
you are, absolutely are. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because I employ that like literally every morning. I don't do it at night. I do it in the morning. And the first thing in the morning, I have this thing. The first thing I do is I declare myself an open channel for the divine, because for me, that's my living. And I always want to be in that zone. And then I ask the divine to show me what they want me to do that day, what they want me to have. And the showing me doesn't come in words. A lot of time it's a hit.
Yeah.
And that hit was like yesterday when I was in the show saying, maybe I should get Isabelle on. And I knew the answer was Isabelle should be on this conversation right now, and she's not. So the next thing was I will contact Isabelle. And by then, and thank you, whoever, somebody tagged you in that. And you got to see it before I got to ask it. So that helped me out. Like, oh, Vickie's going to make a request pretty quick for me.
I thought it was like 2 weeks from now. And then it was like, oh, it's tomorrow. But this is the same thing. I heard the request, right? It came from me, from spirit, from source. And I said yes, because it's like Michael Singer in the Surrender Experiment. He built his whole life just saying yes to life and became the owner of $1 billion software company. He was a yoga spiritual teacher. Like that had nothing, and just chose in that whole book to say yes. And so I said yes to you. I found a way to make it work. And you say yes, and you reached out. And that's my second step, right? Take action on what you hear. Because so often we don't, because we doubt. We're like, oh, not now. Maybe tomorrow I'll reach out to her. And what will our life be if we actually do it? If we actually do what we're told, when we're told to do it? That's my curiosity right now.
And that's a beautiful thing right now, because even talking to you about this, my stress drops down. I'm like, yeah, it's not even about, this is all play and blah, blah, blah. But to some people, it's really, really real. And the thing I like about the stress reset is there is duality, but there is also transcending duality. And sometimes duality creates power struggle back and forth. And what happens with you surrendering is that you're not using your mind. You're using something else. And when you use your mind, you have a tendency to think, because that's what the mind likes to do. It likes to think, and it likes to tell you those negative stories that we've been through. And when you transcend that, you can say, you can think whatever you want, but we're going to go with green zone thoughts, and we're going to manage the thoughts that we have, and we're going to take our power back, and we're going to step over it, kind of over, and say, when you're in the point where you're aligned with that piece of the divine. Again, I sit down and I do this in the morning. Then I am a channel for the divine. And then I have my affirmation that I do throughout the day that brings me back to my center point, where I'm surrendering to the moment and to what's being said to me, so that I'm unfolding that moment to moment to moment to moment. When I argue with that moment, what's telling me, I go back down into power struggle. It's either my way or the highway, or thy way and surrender. That's really my two choices right there. And I feel like my way or the highway is full of suffering.
Yeah.
And it's
so full of suffering. And I don't know if it takes for all of us a lifetime to figure it out. I'm 57. I don't know how old you are. And I'm over it. I'm over it. There's such a clear example of when I follow God's will, things go. And that's why the third step is so important, of let go of outcome. I don't know. I realized I didn't know what God's will was for me in my life. I know that everything I've gone to up until now where I've followed God's will has been amazing. But even failures can be amazing. Even if I were to fail the next 6 months, my business, by doing this, I actually trust that means I was supposed to.
Yes.
And I want to say one thing about the red zone. That's really
beautiful what you just said. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me slow it down.
That's just beautiful what you just said. Even if I fail, I have to believe that that's God's will. I'm paraphrasing because you said it perfectly. And how much faith that takes. Wow, that's incredible. Even if I did this and I failed at it, I have to see that that's God's will and see what's next for me.
Because I'm exhausted from listening to my will. I mean, for me, this is where I've come to, goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. Like you said, well, what if people are addicted to the red zone? And those are not the people I'm talking to. What I'm talking to myself and right now in this conversation is I've gone to the point where doing my will was competition, envy, was like thinking I should know the way the world should unfold, trying to control the world to make it unfold. I'm just freaking tired. I'm not freaking Mother Teresa. I'm just tired. It takes to push against life takes so much energy and work. And I just have no interest in it anymore. And I want to go with the flow, like you were saying. I really, it's just much less exhausting. And what happens down that river, I don't know, but I'm really curious to find out.
Yes, that curiosity is there. So when you're away, people, and we're going to be next week we're not going to be here till January. It's the end of the season. And trust me, I will promise to have Isabelle back on next year sometime. But while we're dealing with this, I want to make sure that just write these down. Just write, number one, stop whatever you're thinking and feeling. If it's stress, like I'm worried about where am I going to feed my family, or where's my job? I'm going to lose my house, blah, blah, blah. Those are very, very hard thoughts to stop.
Yeah, and I want to say a detail about that. It doesn't mean they're going to stop. They're not going to stop. It's about you stopping and not taking them so seriously. Just being like, oh, I'm in the red zone. My thoughts are distorted. They're still going to go. I don't want them to be frustrated that their thoughts are still going. It's just you're stopping and you're not entertaining them anymore. You're not feeding them anymore. I wanted to be really precise about that.
And you may have to do that more than once. Like if this is the first time, because I know when I have scary thoughts and I'm really, plugged into the fear, I have to stop myself, then stop myself, then stop myself.
Sometimes.
It is absolutely like having a war in your mind, but you have to decide who's going to win, that negativity or you.
Yeah.
Are you going to win or that negativity?
It's a distortion. It is not personal. You're not thinking those fear-based thoughts because there's something wrong with you. You're thinking those fear-based thoughts because your limbic system is activated and thinks you're in danger. There's no shame. That's why it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault, but you get the responsibility of changing out of that. So yes, so step number one, good. So let's do step number
whatever you're thinking and feeling. And here's what I want to say. I think this is an important factor here that Isabelle said, and I want to make sure you do this with step number one. oh, my thoughts are in the red zone. You've got to say it out loud. You've got, oh, my thoughts are in the red zone again. Oh, God, my thoughts are in the red zone again. My thoughts are in the red zone again. Don't shame yourself. It's not your fault. This is something that happens, but you have to identify that your thoughts are going into the red zone, because then it allows you to throw the gear in neutral. You can go, you don't have to blaze down the highway at top speed, and you don't have to hit the brakes and come to a full stop. You just put it in neutral for a second, breathe deeply into your belly so that your body begins to know it's safe. I'm safe right now. You're taking that deep breath, and then take a feel-good action. So that means you have to have in your list, what are my feel-good actions? Here's
Correct.
what I want to tell you mine are. Mine are, can I go for a walk with my dog? Because my dog brings me great joy when I'm on a pet and it's wagging its tail and it's happy. It makes me happy by just being around it. So go for a walk. I like to bike ride. I do the song and dance thing all the time. People are just, that song and dance thing that I have. I go get a hug from my partner because we're hug deprived right now. This is the way of the world. We're not getting to be around the things that we love so much. We have to be careful, and all these other sometimes rules and laws that are coming in where it's like 6 feet apart, 12 feet apart. Pretty soon it'll be 24 feet apart. But we have this time. We just have this time. So you want to be able to create your feel-good actions ahead of time so you can just pick one from the list.
Exactly. Because the waiting is going to kill you. That, they say we have 5 seconds before the brain starts going back into negativity bias. And I want to say one thing about feel-good habits. If you are really high in the red zone, moving is the most important thing you can do. So doing a habit of moving, just do 10 jumping jacks. Because if you're really high in the red zone and somebody tells you to go meditate, I'm going to be like, F off, right? Because your body is ready to fight or flight, to fight or flee, and it can't actually be journaling. So sometimes, oh, I'm in the red zone. I'm going to take a couple of breaths. Oh, I'm still really wound up, and I'm going to dance, or I'm going to sing. Movement sometimes is the only feel-good habit that should be used. Once you have lowered that stress, then you can journal and say, what happened here? Or then you can meditate. But you use movement a lot, and you use it appropriately, because it's actually a way to discharge that fight or flight energy that, if not, will show up an hour later, 2 hours later, when the partner says the thing you didn't want to hear, and you never actually let go of that energy, and you just buried it. So I really love your habits, because they are all movement based. They don't have to be, but I want you to understand why that works so well when you are still triggered.
So I want to be really intimate right now and very personal. And I want to share with you something that happened with me where I got to put exactly what she said into place, and from both sides. So the other day we were having a meeting and our whole team was there, and everybody was working. We have worked so hard, like my shoulders, literally, I can't move it right now. I've had to take a little time off from typing. So we are launching this new product. We're getting a lot of buzz. I got a new book coming out, and there's all this hoopla, and it's all really good. So we're having this meeting, and everybody isn't just happy. We're all happy, but we're all tired. We're so tired. So we're all on the screen, and I'm showing somebody a piece of work that I did, and I'm trying to get some feedback from people. And I see my spouse roll her eyes like, and look up at the ceiling. And I was like, that's unusual. And I said, are you okay? And she said, yeah. And I said, are you frustrated? And she was like, well, perhaps, but I didn't see that. I forget that you can see me through the camera. So she was frustrated at me. And right away, I took it very personal. I was like, oh my God, she rolled her eyes at me and blah, blah, blah. And I could dive into a story about what she thinks of me and what is this and that and the other. And I got to be honest, at the beginning, I did. But there was something inside me that was really calm. Like, have you ever been frustrated before? Well, I think everybody has. And you're not perfect. So at some time your spouse is going to be frustrated with you. Like, I can't believe you did that. Well, so I was like, yeah, that's all it is. It's just that. And I had forcibly put myself in the yellow zone when I found out I was in the red zone.
Mm,
I couldn't quite go to the green zone yet. So I just put myself in
good,
neutral,
good.
and I could hear my brain battle as to which story was going to win. Which story was going to win, but I always win. So I let go of that negative story and I said what I needed to say and I said what it was done. It was just so not personal. Then I could push it into the green zone. So I want everybody to know this because maybe you're in the red zone and you think you're supposed to just jump to the green zone. And maybe that's not how it works for you. And I want to share so personally. Did I feel hurt? Yes. Did I tell myself of the story of you never listen to me, blah, blah, blah? Yes. You're going to tell yourself your negative stories. But if you catch yourself instead of believing the story you're telling yourself, then the truth can come out. So when I listened to my story inside, like you never listen to me, I felt my little girl who was 5 years old looking at the people who didn't listen to them. But my spouse listens to me more than anybody else has ever listened to me in my whole life. The person that has spent the most time getting to know me, getting to understand me, loving me in spite of myself, loving me because of myself. So I wanted to say that if you get to the red zone, it does not mean you jump to the green zone just because you catch yourself. You can go into that yellow zone and just identify a little bit of your story and how you're projecting it onto your partner, how you're projecting that story. Go ahead, say.
I want to add another piece. Sometimes you can't even get out of the red zone. So the best thing to do is the green zone lens. You can be curiosity, that's a green zone lens, or you can bring humor. So if I'm in there and I can't get out of it, I'll exaggerate it. But she knows of it, and I'll do this whole out loud thing. So humor is a great one. Curiosity, like, wow, that story is really playing out. I can have compassion. Wow, I'm really hurt, aren't I? Like, I'm really believing that story that she's not listening to me enough. So I want to give you all permission. Sometimes you can't get out of the red zone, but you can put a different lens on or different relationship to it. And obviously, the side effect of that is it already starts to bring you to the yellow zone because you've got humor and curiosity and compassion. But be kind with yourself if you can't get out of it. Be kind. The fact that you're aware that you're in it is ginormous. And just be like, I'll say, yes, I'm in the red zone. I can't get out of it. Just stay away from me. Because when I'm in the red zone, I will look for any opportunity to discharge my energy. So I'm just like, back off, dude, go to your office and don't talk to me because I will find a way to be pissed at you, And I know that I'm responsible, right? I'm responsible with my red zone energy. And that's the difference. I'm never going to be constant green zone people. Never. But how do we love our humanity and be responsible with our humanity? That's my question of my life.
Your system is by far the best one. A, because it's simple. B, it's only 3 steps. It's relatable. And once you start practicing it, you can pretty much go through the zones pretty quickly. The way I got to the green zone after I was in the yellow zone, I got out my journal and I wrote, I am grateful statements, but I did it for my partner. I am grateful to my partner because she does this or says that or is like this. And suddenly you can see how many things you're grateful for her or from me, for her being in my life and loving it so much that it made that stupid eye roll look just hysterical. It's nothing at that point.
That's an amazing feel-good habit. And that takes a lot of skill. Again, when we're in the red zone, it's like, yeah. I know I should be doing gratitude. So that's why that second step is so important. You really have to stop, slow yourself down. And it could be that you dance like a crazy woman before you do that gratitude list. Like really trust, because sometimes we don't want to do the gratitude list, but that's a really, really beautiful one. And the final thing that I want to say is that for me, they're all sacred. All the zones are sacred. They're
That's
all
right.
God for me. So we have to be really careful that we don't go red zone bad, green zone good. They're all expressions
Yes.
of the divine. It's just that different expressions that have different consequences. So when we see it that way, it changes like our ego wanting to be like good, bad. And now suddenly, once again, we're at war with ourselves, which is not the point of this work.
Mm, mm, mm.
Mm, mm, mm.
I'm sorry. I just love your work so much. And I'm so glad that you were our, Dr. Isabelle Tierney on our
I'm not
show.
a doctor, so we'll just call me. We'll have
Isabelle
to come up with a great name by it.
Queen,
And the other thing I want
goddess.
people remember, and we'll talk about more about the scale that precedes it next time, but it's colors of the traffic light. That way you remember. All you got to remember, stop, slow down, go. Stop, slow down, go. If you remember a traffic light, you'll remember my 3 steps. That's what I freaking love about them.
I do too. I love it very much. Isabelle, thank you so much for taking a moment and just saying, yeah, I'll get on and do this. For everyone out there who's feeling anxious, for who actually would like some contact with Isabelle, who would actually, and I would say, if you are relating to this, this zone, this stress reset zone, and you want to contact Isabelle, do so right now. And I'm going to ask you, where would you like them to meet you? Where would you like to
go on Messenger? Find me, Isabelle Tierney, on Facebook, and then just write me on Messenger. In February, and we can talk about that in January, I'm going to do a 10-day challenge. That's called the Feel Good Breakthrough 10-day challenge. And we are going to go you're going to pick one area of your life that you really want to change. And we're going to take 10 days and just dive into like changing every day one habit about that area of your life. And I think it's going to be thousands of people, and we're going to freaking be an energetic wave that we're going to support each other through that. So just know that that's coming up in February. Now, as soon as I have details, I will share.
Robin, would you do me a favor if you haven't put Isabelle's Facebook group?
Yeah, and I've just my business page, and the business page is called the Feel Good Life. So you guys will hear Vickie will sometimes talk about the stress reset, sometimes the Feel Good Life. The stress reset is the business part. I teach this to corporations, and the Feel Good Life is for the self-development for us. And so really you'll see it's the Feel Good Life.
And I'm in both.
And you'll find me in both.
If you see my face, join the group over there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's always so much fun to be with you, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, and here it is, you guys. There's a Facebook, Isabelle Tierney. Get there. She's got a 10-day challenge coming up. You definitely want to have your new year start off really great. This 10-day challenge is going to rock, and I want to see you there. Thank you for being here. That's the Coffee Break Show today. I love you all. Peace out, and I will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.